Hey guys, it's your boy Brian C. Welcome to day 108 of Workout Grind. Can you believe it? 108, that's a lot. It's just like half a year in like 365 days, but in reality, I've been doing this for like 2 years already. It's crazy. It's crazy. Anyways, it's currently 6:35 in the morning. I woke up at 6. I went downstairs, boiled some egg, and just ate breakfast. There you go. Refilled my water. So now I have this little thing. I have a new water bottle, by the way. Looks pretty cool, pretty tight. And it's big now. It's like 750 mLs, apparently. So, like, I can just refill it twice, and basically I'm done with my water count, but it's not. I have to, like, drink two water bottles, but that's besides the point. I'm gonna take my tablets now. I haven't finished making my protein shake and creatine one. I'm still a bit full in terms of water or whatever. Yeah, fuck it, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it right now. Anyways, progress has been nice. Progress has been swell. It's not like an explosive one, but I absolutely do not want it to be an explosive one. I want it exactly the way it is right now. It's I know the tendencies of having a very explosive, very high productive day. It's just like it's just a guaranteed burnout for the rest of the week, you know? How can I make it sustainable? No. What I did now is I forgive myself for not fully optimizing my time. I really try to acknowledge that I am indeed human, believe it or not, and that I require rests. I make mistakes. That way, I don't go too hard on myself when I do fuck up, and it makes it easier to reset because I do fuck up. So, what I do now in my schedules, basically, I will now dedicate a small part of time to just chill out, you know? I'm not built that for it. I have to acknowledge that. I need rest. I'm not those guys that just go straight to work mode. I can't be like those guys. I can't. Just can't. It says 3.5 scoops. Mhm. So yeah, what am I saying? Yeah, so I acknowledge that I'm not one of those guys, and I acknowledge that I'm not a robot. He does not make mistakes and shit. I need breaks. That's important as work itself. Without breaks, the whole thing is not sustainable. And I won't be able to grind. It's just as important as sleep. Just as important as quality work. Obviously, I'll pair this up with things that I actually want to do. Lately, I try to keep up with my main, like, cardio, my workout, my sleep, my diet, vitamins. I forgot what this is all for. Why I need to optimize my time. It's to make quality work. You know, looking back at it, it looks like I just became a shell of myself back then. Not doing quality work, not even doing maintenance to my body. So what the hell have I been doing? I don't know. It's crazy stuff, man. Anyways, I'm just gonna put water in my thing. It should be fine now. So yeah, now that needs to change. So right now, I'm seeing that it takes me 6 minutes to do these things. I'll wake up at 6. I'm about to work out. You know, in my old routine, immediately I just wake up, boom, work out. Now, to do stupid things. Protein shakes, boiled eggs, breakfast. Apparently, it takes me 35 minutes to do that. Crazy stuff, crazy stuff. I think we can optimize that. Let's see. I like this water bottle because this is transparent, so I can see if there's some like stuff, powders and stuff. And yeah. And it's small. Initially, I bought this so I can put my like protein shakes there. It turns out you only need this much, this small, for that stuff. Insane. Alright. Time for the bigger. There you go. So, I heard from one of Andrew Huberman's podcasts that you don't want to do something consistently all the time. I mean, like, you can work it consistently, but there's a way for you to not just repetitively do things. One part of it is changing your sets, you know? You go arms and you go chest. But there's also another variety, which is what do you do while you're working out? Either watch a podcast or listen to music or do nothing at all. So this time I'm gonna try to work out doing nothing at all. No, just kidding, just kidding. I'm gonna do music. I can't fucking take that shit now, bro. Fuck that. I don't talk in my streams lately. I don't. I'm starting to transition to like the idea that I'm not gonna go famous for this. This is just for me, you know, to document my life and shit. I'm okay with that. I'm absolutely okay with that. This is just for my character development, man. Like I said. So, what I'm just talking to you, it's just for me, bro. Hi, me, buddy. How you doing? Anyways, do you have that thing? Over here somewhere? Sorry, I'm just my eyes, bruh. I don't know. I don't know. I don't feel like it. Um, fuck. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to learn right now. Sure, go ahead.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform. Describe what you want, and watch it take shape.
Este comercial no vende nada, ni te ofrece nada, ni te enseña nada, ni te pide que compres absolutamente nada. Es más, ni siquiera es comercial. Pero de él te vas a acordar para siempre. Canal 5. Sin compromisos.
Canal 5 was just your average Mexican television network. The TV channel focused mainly on children's programming and films, including dubbed versions of shows like Dragon Ball Z, Ed, Edd n Eddy, a Mexican version of the Disney Club, and so on. Really, there was nothing strange about the network. It was family-friendly, entertaining, and full of
El niño Ricardo Sayid Tobar Sandoval, de 14 años de edad, desapareció el 28 de enero en Coacalco, Estado de México. Seña particular, una cicatriz en la cara, al lado izquierdo de la cara. José Antonio Vélez Hernández, de 15 años.
Beginning in the 1980s, Canal 5 would host service announcements. These sudden announcements would display missing people, including their name, some basic information, and an image if available. The purpose was to spread awareness about their disappearance in the hopes of locating and rescuing them. Many who grew up watching Canal 5 remember these announcements as being horrifying, mainly because of how they interrupted fun kids content with very serious, somber content. I can kinda see why Canal 5 would do these. I mean, to be fair, here in the States we had Amber Alerts, and emergency messages pop up on screen during cartoons. Yeah, it's scarring, but getting the word and potentially saving innocent lives is understandable. However, the same cannot be said for what Canal 5 did in April of 2020.
2020? What the fuck? What the fuck?
Hi, I'm Johnny Quasar, and this is my robot dog,
For some reason, Canal 5's official Twitter page began posting really strange and off-putting videos. It didn't help that these videos were posted dead at night and deleted some hours later. Imagine if Nickelodeon started posting videos like this on their Twitter page.
Bruh.
It was really bizarre.
Who cares about that?
The posts were investigated by Info Bay Mexico, an online newspaper. However, employees at Canal 5 claim to not know anything about these disturbing posts. It's now widely believed to have likely been a viral marketing stunt. Canal 5 received widespread attention and media coverage, but amidst their many tweets, there was one that simply said, Celine. After Canal 5 went viral, people began looking into their service announcements and found this. Celine Delgado Lopez is a missing person who was featured on Canal 5 20 years prior to their strange tweet. She was described as an 18-year-old woman who disappeared sometime in the 1990s. What makes her case stand out is how little we know about her. There is no evidence that Celine Delgado Lopez actually existed, and there is no publicly verifiable documentation that has been found. Even stranger is how off her photo was. There was no color, it was overexposed, and at a weird angle. In stark contrast to the photos used by other missing persons featured in the same broadcast, Celine's photo is quite unnerving. To be fair, there were other missing persons with photos just as obscure, but none received the same level of attention as Celine. Some began wondering if Celine was even a real person. But if that's the case, where did this image even come from? The mystery has become a popular urban legend in Mexico, and many have begun investigating the case. I'm not sure if there's like a search team or something like that, like a lost media search, because I'd definitely love to join one. But in 2025, more and more service announcements were recovered from personal recordings and online uploads. Each upload not only documents another missing person, but could shed light on the mystery of Celine Delgado Lopez.
This concludes another day of outstanding television programming on WMAQ-TV, Channel 5, NBC in Chicago. We now leave the air and wish you a pleasant good morning.
On January 14th, 1989, the Chicago channel WMAQ was doing its usual sign-off for the night. Just as the station was finishing its closing routine, the screen abruptly cut to a missing person slide. On it was a blurry image of a young woman, and the name Joanna Lopez. There was no transition, no music, no narration, and no information about her age, height, or the circumstances of her disappearance. On top of everything, the photo used was of very poor quality. It seemed to be a rough photocopy of an actual image. Because of this, many users found this ad to be uneasy and even a little disturbing. Although the format was unusual, WMAQ did air at least one other missing person slide in a similar style. In 1988, the station showed a slide for a missing child named Tricia Kellett, including her name, photo, and the date she disappeared. Tricia is well documented as a real missing child, though sadly her case remains unsolved. Joanna Lopez, however, has almost no public records about her or her disappearance. Researchers have not located a matching missing person case under that name in standard public databases. Because of this lack of documentation, some thought that Joanna Lopez was merely an urban legend, a case of mistaken identity, or some cruel joke. However, all doubts vanished in 1991. During another WMAQ late-night sign-off, the same missing Joanna Lopez slide appeared again. This time, Joanna's image remained on screen for a few seconds, before cutting to color bars and tone. The slide was basically the same, but the image looked slightly sharper, but not by a lot, and no new information about Joanna was given. All this really proved was that Joanna was no mere hoax or mistake, but a real person that had gone missing for several years. Decades later, when people began uploading archives of these broadcasts, the mystery of Joanna Lopez was rediscovered and became an internet phenomenon. Viewers were struck by the complete lack of information besides her name and face, and began to investigate. The number on the slide was real, but has since been disconnected. Later research revealed that the number used to belong to the Youth Division of the Chicago Police Department, which worked on juvenile and runaway cases. Now, apparently, there was a woman with a similar name that was discovered, and when contacted, she revealed that she was a runaway at the age of 18. Her age and location also matched up, but for whatever reason, all communication abruptly ceased. Follow-up calls and texts have gone unresponded. It's unclear if this genuinely was Joanna Lopez, but pushing for more information could be seen as borderline harassment, so this lead has gone cold. That said, progress is still being made. There are communities online, such as a Discord and a subreddit, trying to uncover more information about Joanna Lopez and solve this bizarre mystery. In February of this year, a brand new, never-before-seen broadcast was discovered and uploaded to YouTube, this time from 1990. When asked, the uploader specified that he bought tapes from a collector from the Chicago area and was unaware of the Joanna Lopez mystery. Sadly, the clip doesn't seem to reveal anything or progress the investigation in any way, but it was still a worthwhile discovery. On August 31st, 2019, a man named Seth Ader carried out a terrible crime. Ader was a man living in Texas and had just been fired from his job that same day. Sometime later, he called an FBI tip line and made rambling statements about the wrongs he had suffered. Shortly after, Ader grabbed an AR-15, drove his Toyota Camry down Interstate 20 near Midland, and began a violent mobile shooting spree. Ader opened fire from his vehicle at nearby bystanders, cars, and motorists. Ader made his way to neighboring Odessa, where he continued to shoot people. During this time, he made numerous calls to 911 and spoke to multiple operators while he carried out his evil crime. Eventually, he made his way to a residential area where he shot and killed a U.S. Postal Service carrier before stealing her mail truck. Finally, as Ader drove along Texas State Highway 191 in Odessa, officers rammed the hijacked mail truck and killed him in a final gunfight. In total, 7 people were tragically killed, and roughly 25 others were injured. Investigators have not identified a single clear motive for Ader's shooting spree, but most sources point to his declining mental health and paranoid delusions. According to the official report of investigation, Ader claimed that he was being stalked and impersonated online, and that he was kidnapped by an employer and forced to watch child pornography. However, during this 911 call, he made no threats or mentions of his upcoming shooting. Following the rampage, law enforcement and the FBI searched Ader's home and background, confirming that he had previously failed a background check, but obtained his rifle through a private sale that did not require one. The man who sold him the rifle was later criminally prosecuted. He pleaded guilty to selling firearms without a license and was sentenced to 24 months in federal prison. In any case, Seth Ador's 911 call was not typically considered lost media. Sure, the calls hadn't been made public, but they weren't really sought after. In February of this year, Reddit user Brave Award 8666 found and uploaded a recording of the call through, I'm assuming, a Freedom of Information Act request. There isn't a whole lot of information about how he acquired this online, and even Brave Award's Reddit account was later removed. On February 13th, 2017, two Indiana teens, Abigail Williams and Liberty German, were hiking near the Monon High Bridge in Delphi, a small town about 60 miles northwest of Indianapolis. The girls were dropped off near the Monon High Bridge trail that afternoon and were expected to be picked up later in that evening. Unfortunately, that never happened. Libby's father arrived at the trail a little after 3 p.m., expecting to pick them up, but the girls were not there and did not answer phone calls, which immediately concerned the family. Relatives and friends began searching the trails and nearby areas themselves through the afternoon and early evening, repeatedly calling and texting the girls without success. When the family failed to locate them and darkness began approaching, the family contacted authorities and reported the girls missing at 5:30 p.m. Police and community volunteers organized a search of the area that continued into the night, but the worst was yet to be discovered. The next morning, at around noon, searchers found 2 bodies in a wooded area near the north bank of Deer Creek, roughly half a mile east of the Monon High Bridge. These were the remains of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. Later investigations revealed that the girls had been attacked and killed near where they were found, with court proceedings indicating that they had died from having their throats slashed. Analysis of Libby's phone revealed some key details. Shortly after 2 p.m., Liberty took and posted photos on Snapchat as they started to cross the bridge. Sometime later, the girls noticed that they were being followed by a man and began to record a video. Libby's phone continued to register movements through its health and location data until about 2:32 p.m. when the device ceased recording movements. The man seen in the video can be heard saying, "Guys, down the hill," and became a primary suspect. He became known as the Bridge Guy when his image and audio were released online, although the full video hadn't been shared. 3 days after the murder, a man named Richard Allen self-reported to being on the same trail during the murders. However, the report was misfiled because his name was incorrectly recorded, so Allen was left out of investigations for several years. In 2022, a volunteer working with the case noticed the old tip and realized the name mix-up, which caused detectives to refocus on Allen. Investigators linked an unspent .40 caliber bullets found near the bodies to Allen's P226 handgun. Coupled with his own statements and the fact that he matched witness descriptions cemented the prosecution's case. In November 2024, the jury found Allen guilty on all charges in a double homicide, and in December 2024, he was sentenced to 130 years in prison. In 2024, recorded phone calls from Allen were played for the jurors, in which he confessed his crimes to his wife and mother. Portions of those calls, along with segments of his police interviews, were later aired in news coverage and became publicly accessible, including in 2025. As for the full Bridge Guy video, that had always remained behind closed doors, until this year, when a website advocating for Allen's innocence uploaded the full clip online. It's a bit unclear how they obtained this footage from the trial exhibits, but nevertheless, it's a very chilling video, knowing what ended up happening.
See, this is the path that we get on. There's no path going there, so we have to get on here.
The Mexia Supermarket was a small, independently owned grocery store located in Fort Worth, Texas. Unfortunately, the owners declared bankruptcy because the store was unprofitable and had accumulated over $1 million in debt. By 1999, after just a year or so of operation, the store was abandoned. Literally. The owners just deserted the grocery store with everything left inside to rot and decay in the sweltering Texas summer heat. Instead of cleaning the inventory, they locked the doors with meat, fish, produce, dairy, frozen foods, and other perishables still inside. After the electricity was cut, refrigeration ended, and the food began to rot, drawing flies, maggots, and vermin. The entire building basically turned into a sealed ecosystem full of decomposing food. By the end of the summer, nauseating fumes would surround the store from all the waste being produced. From the outside, people complained of an overpowering smell that was so foul, people reportedly experienced headaches just by walking by it.
Back in August, store owners locked the doors and left everything behind.
You've got a fully stocked grocery store. You've got a complete produce section. You've got a complete meat section. It's been sitting there unrefrigerated for 60 to 90 days.
Today, a pest control company started its assault on the building that's now infested with rodents and thousands of flies. Some neighbors say the smell has made them sick. Environmental Services confirms the odor can cause nausea and vomiting, but won't cause long-term health problems.
Authorities eventually declared the site a health hazard, and a specialty firm was hired to clean the area. Workers had to wear hazmat suits to carefully remove and decontaminate everything inside the store, costing around $100,000. The event received a fair amount of local media coverage, documenting the surroundings of the store, as well as some footage of the inside. However, the story remained largely unknown outside of Fort Worth, until a documentary on the History Channel called Life After People aired an episode called The Last Supper. The episode talks about what would happen to food supply if humanity suddenly vanished. It mentioned Mexia as a case study, bringing renewed interest in the story.
In 1999, in Fort Worth, Texas, a grocery shop went bankrupt. The owners decided to abandon the shop, leaving everything inside. Within weeks, neighbors began to notice a horrible stench.
Years later, Lost Media Wiki user Benjamin McHale became interested in the case and began tracking down the original tapes used in the Life After People episode. His search led him to Anthony Williams, department supervisor of Fort Worth's environmental management. Williams confirmed that an employee named Jimmy McClurg had filmed the cleanup of Mexia, but they were unable to locate his recordings, suggesting that they were lost amid department changes. Since then, there's been an ongoing effort to recover as much lost media from Mexia as possible, and there's even a search team on Discord. I'm considering making a whole documentary about it if you guys would like to see that. Anyways, as for the discoveries made in 2025, there are a ton. A TikTok user named Juice shared a video that was shot by his parents as they drove past Mexia in November of 1999. That same month, a Discord user known as Ash successfully requested footage of Mexia from the University of North Texas. On July 15th, Discord user Biscuit Numbers located additional Mexia footage from station KTVT in the CONUS archive. In July, YouTuber Kong MMG released a video that showcased new photographs of the store from the day the hazmat workers first arrived. These images were obtained by directly emailing Fort environmental department. There is one last find to talk about. In September of this year, searchers noticed a university archive had quietly posted a full set of Mexia supermarket photos. However, most of these were already uncovered and shared last year by Lost Media Wiki user Nicolette Astor, all except for one. This photo shows a Garner environmental employee on the left and Jimmy McClurg on the right, a Fort Worth environmental staffer who documented the cleanup. McClurg can be seen holding a small camcorder, which roughly resembles the one he used to film footage for the Life After People episode. So what happened to the footage, and why wasn't Williams able to locate it? It's theorized the footage was likely damaged from something called sticky shed syndrome, a real form of decay aggravated by humidity, water damage, and poor storage. This would coincide with the heavy humidity from the inside of Mexia, as well as the clips used in the Life After People episode already showing wear. There's an ongoing search occurring and probably a lot more to be discovered, so until then, we'll have to wait and see what else gets found. September 11th, 2001 is a date that needs little introduction. That morning, the world watched in horror as a series of coordinated terrorist attacks forever changed the course of history. Yet, despite extensive news coverage and personal recordings, there's still a vast amount of photos and videos related to 9/11 that remain lost to time. This has led to the creation of the 9/11 Media Preservation Group, a team of people dedicated to finding and preserving as much from the events as possible, and I've talked about them a few times on my channel. Genuinely, 9/11 lost media is such an interesting rabbit hole, and out of all the different subcategories of lost media, this one's probably my favorite. This takes us to the founder of the 9/11 Media Preservation Group, a user known as Between Two Towers, and the Ed S. Tapes. On January 24th, 2025, Between Two Towers posted on the 9/11 Archive subreddit. This camera filmed the attacks on the World Trade Center, and its recording hasn't been seen in over 20 years. Now we are working on releasing it to the public. This Canon camcorder is the personal possession of a September 11 survivor who has never allowed it to be published until members of the 9/11 Media Preservation Group and I contacted them. Now we are working with a local company to make a high-quality digital conversion to release to the public in its entirety for the first time. The camera itself has been in storage in its original bag since the fateful event, which is still covered in dust from the collapse of World Trade Center 2, which occurred when the individual was less than 1 block from the complex. The recording is nearly an hour long and mostly uninterrupted, spanning from minutes after the first impact to shortly after the first collapse. At this time, I can't get into the specifics about the individual, as they want to maintain a level of anonymity until the full tape can be reviewed by them and their family. But as part of the agreement, they have allowed me the unique opportunity and permission to publish the full unedited video once the process is completed. The following month, Between Two Towers returned with an update. Update, new 9/11 footage. We have delivered the tape. The tape has been retrieved by members of the 9/11 Media Preservation Group. Sometime next week, a video call is scheduled with me and team members over at ever-present facility, and we will discuss the process and make sure we get the highest quality export of the footage while not damaging the original tape. Later that month, Between Two Towers posted another update. He explained the tape had unfortunately showed signs of wear and damage, which is not all too surprising, especially after over 20 years. That said, progress was still being made. The tape was to be analyzed, repaired, and converted to a high-quality uncompressed file. Then, in May of that year, the footage was posted to YouTube.
I'm alive, but I'm leaving because this is too close for comfort and I got it all on video.
Yeah, you okay?
No, man. No, I'm not okay. I was on the roof and all of a sudden it's...
The footage is just under an hour long and offers a street-level view of the disaster. For obvious reasons, I can't play the full clip here, but it is harrowing. It makes you feel like you were actually there. The owner of the tape, a man named Ed, later commented, "I could still smell and taste it. The panic in my chest is with me to this day. Nobody, especially those who make comments on how this event that changed the world forever, could ever fathom the pain we all felt. Witnessing this, something I could never forget." In 1993, the news program Aquí Agora sent a news crew to cover the attempt of 16-year-old Danielle Alves Lopez. Lopez was a Brazilian teenager who worked as a receptionist in downtown Sao Paulo. Sources say she became depressed after a recent romantic breakup. On July 5th, she climbed onto the 7th floor ledge of the office building where she worked, drawing the attention of the police and eventually TV reporters. While on the ledge, Danielle was filmed by the TV news program Aquí Agora, and the footage of her jump was broadcast nationally. Because of the shocking nature of the event, her case became widely known and highly controversial. Aquí Agora was a sensationalist Brazilian news program, infamous for its graphic, crime-focused coverage, and for turning real-life tragedies into spectacle. The report, the journalistic coverage of the death of Danielle Alves Lopez by the program Aquí Agora and the role of journalism in the dissemination of examines this broadcast. The authors argue that Aquí Agora violated nearly every major recommendation. It showed the method and moment of death, simplified the motive, failed to mention mental health resources, and ignored the broader social and clinical context of suicide. Instead of helping viewers to understand the complexity of such acts or offer pathways to help, the piece treated Danielle's final moments as sensationalist content, meant to keep the audience glued to the screen. Danielle's family later sued for the way her death and her image were used, reaching a settlement of about 1 million reals in 1994 for moral damages. In the years that followed, the full broadcast effectively disappeared from public circulation, and only fragments survived. The Brazilian Lost Media Wiki mentions that excerpts of Lopez's was shown in a documentary about Aqui Agora, which was posted to YouTube in 2016. The video ended up being removed from the platform some years later for violating community guidelines. Now, on December 15th, as I was writing the script, a Reddit user named Josu Bacana made a post onto r/Brazil Lost Media, in which he showed a photo that appeared to be a frame from the infamous reports. He claimed that the full report had been found, but he didn't want to share the video due to its disturbing nature. Either way, the post was deleted after backlash from other Reddit users. A few hours later, he decided to make another post, this time containing the full 9-minute coverage of the event. This post was also deleted by the subreddit's moderators, though the footage was saved and can be found online. For obvious reasons, I'm not going to play the clip here. It is highly unsettling, and I wish Danielle could receive the help she needed, rather than have her troubles turn into sensationalism by the news.
Wow, that's not good.
Get the fuck out of here!
The Station nightclub fire was one of the deadliest nightclub disasters in U.S. history, occurring on the night of February 20th, 2003 in West Warwick, Rhode Island. The event resulted in the deaths of 100 people and injured more than 200 others. But what happened? The Station was a small, single-story nightclub and music venue. On the night of the fire, more than 400 people crowded into the club to watch a performance by the band Great White. However, this far exceeded the occupancy level for the space and became a genuine cause for concern. Not only that, but despite the building having 4 exits, most of the audience entered through the front doorway. The disaster began after the band started sets. They had sparks shot into the air as part of the show. Unfortunately, these sparks struck highly flammable foam that lines the wall and ceilings around the stage, material that had been installed as soundproofing. Within seconds, flames raced up the walls and across the ceiling, and within minutes, smoke began to engulf the club. Although the fire alarm activated and the venue had multiple exits, because everyone entered through the front doorway instinctively, they all rushed towards the same doorway in an attempt to get out. This created a crushing narrow corridor as heat and smoke intensified behind them. Conditions inside became unbearable after about 90 seconds, and the entire venue was on fire in just a few minutes, trapping many near the stage. Out of roughly 460 people in the building, 100 died and about 240 were injured, many from smoke inhalation, burns, and traumatic injuries from the stampede at the front door. One of the victims was 33-year-old Matthew Pickett. On the night of the station fire, Pickett brought a digital audio recorder and captured the sound of inside the club before and during the disaster. The tape was found on his body and, astonishingly, was fully intact. After his death, prosecutors used this so-called Pickett tape as key evidence because it preserved a detailed audio timeline of the fire's outbreak. While the Pickett tape was preserved and used as evidence in station nightclub fire trials, the full recording has never been officially released to the public. Apparently, the lawyer involved in the case was quite adamant that the audio should never see the light of day. Friendly reminder, in no way am I endorsing searching for audio of people dying or any of this stuff, but in 2025, someone did anyway. In February of this year, the channel Pasteris Archive obtained copies of the Pickett tape through the Freedom of Information Act. Various audio recordings are up on his channel and on the Internet Archive.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform. Describe what you want.
This is Otto Warmbier. He's a 21-year-old American college student.
My crime is very severe and pre-planned. I regret my actions more than anything.
2 months ago, he went on a New Year's party tour with a travel agency. The destination was Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea.
On the early morning of January 1st, 2016, I committed my crime, aimed at harming the work ethic and the motivation of the Korean people.
After a night of partying, he allegedly took a poster from the hallway of his hotel. Shortly after, he was detained for perpetrating a hostile act against the Democratic People's Republic of Korea.
I understand the severity of my crime.
Now he's here, trying to save his life, at the mercy of a totalitarian dictatorship.
I have been very impressed by the Korean government's humanitarian treatment of severe criminals like myself, and of their very fair and square legal procedures in the DPR Korea.
A communist regime that nurtures a deep hate for America.
The United States administration already knows about my act through the CIA and connived at my crime.
Soon, the case of this college kid will escalate the already tense relationship between 2 nuclear powers.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury.
Otto Warmbier, at this point, has no idea what he is about to face.
An American is being held captive in North Korea. He was sentenced to 21 years of hard labor.
Those prisons are rough places. If something very bad happened to him.
Americans' fateful trip to North Korea.
Complete failure to recognize fundamental human rights.
The dreams of a young man destroyed by dubious charges from a ruthless regime.
This very press conference might be his last chance to save his life.
I am the oldest son in my family. My mother needs me. My father needs me. My younger brother and my younger sister need me. I entirely beg you, people and government of the DPR Korea, for your forgiveness. Please, I have made the worst mistake of my life.
Otto Warmbier won't survive, and his case will bring the US and North Korea to the brink of war. But the version of events many people remember might not be true. Much of our research is based on this extensive GQ article. Find the link in the description. New Year's Eve, 2015. This is Kim Il-sung Square in Pyongyang. Thousands of North Koreans have gathered to watch the fireworks and greet the new year. Among them is a group of tourists. These are people from Europe, Canada, Australia, and the US. They're here with a travel agency, and they booked a 5-day, 4-night New Year's party tour for $1,200. Otto Warmbier is one of them. Now, after the fireworks, they return to their hotel, a 47-story tower located on a small island in the Taedong River. It boasts 5 restaurants, a bar, a sauna, a massage parlor, even a bowling alley. One of the restaurants revolves. Because of its location, people call it the Alcatraz of fun. During the tour, they'll drink at a fancy bar and eat at fine restaurants. And, on top, they get the full propaganda tour. They've already visited the 70-foot bronze statues of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, the country's first 2 dictators. They're regarded as near holy figures. State propaganda has it that when Kim Jong-il was born at the site of a holy mountain, a double rainbow and a glowing new star appeared in the sky. Today, his birthday, the Day of the Shining Star, is a public holiday. Citizens spontaneously salute the massive statues, but it's impossible to say whether it's real reverence or mandatory homage. Propaganda is everywhere. Billboards show images of missiles striking the US Capitol. Other posters sport slogans like, "Let's arm ourselves strongly with Kim Jong-il's patriotism." Disrespecting the communist dynasty can get reverence or mandatory homage. Propaganda is everywhere. Billboards show images of missiles striking the US Capitol. Other posters sport slogans like, "Let's arm ourselves strongly with Kim Jong-il's patriotism." Disrespecting the communist dynasty can get you in big trouble. According to GQ, the Database Center for North Korean Human Rights confirmed a case of a factory janitor being prosecuted for bumping such a picture off the wall so that it fell and broke. Otto and the other tour members need to be careful. One wrong move, and they could face harsh punishment. Otto was raised in a suburb outside Cincinnati, Ohio, the oldest of 3 siblings. In high school, he was popular, athletic, and smart. At both prom and homecoming, he was crowned king. Speaking at his high school graduation, he quoted Andy Bernard from The Office.
I wish there was a way to know that you're in the good old days before you've actually left them.
Now, he's majoring in finance. Halfway through his junior year, he decides to do a winter break adventure to North Korea. It makes sense. He'll be studying abroad in Hong Kong in the spring. In 2015, the State Department's travel advisory for North Korea is clear. It recommends against Americans traveling there at all. On the other hand, the website of Young Pioneer Tours, Otto Warmbier's travel agency, said that traveling to North Korea was, quote, extremely safe. The tour operator specializes in taking you to destinations your mother would rather you stay away from. His parents had their concerns, but, as Cindy Warmbier later said, why would you say no to a kid like this? Early in the tour, the group is visiting this ship, the USS Pueblo. The North Korean military captured it in 1968. The North Koreans claimed it had entered their territorial waters. Now, it's a tourist attraction. When the North Korean tour guide explains that the ship was seized from the United States, he doesn't say the United States. He says the imperial enemy. Between 1950 and 1953, the US dropped an estimated 635,000 tons of bombs on the country, plus some 32,000 tons of napalm. Major cities were obliterated. 75% of Pyongyang was destroyed. During the war, as many as 1 million civilians perished. In 1953, a ceasefire ended combat in the Korean War, but a peace agreement was never signed. Technically, the North is still at war with the South, and with its ally, the US. Most Americans are unaware of this war, so much so that the Korean War is often referred to as the Forgotten War. Not so in North Korea. The North Korean tour guide explains what happened back then to the 82 American sailors that were captured along with the ship. They were beaten, starved, and only released after 11 months. Otto Warmbier is not visiting just any country. He's in enemy territory. Danny Grattan, his roommate during the tour, will later recount that Otto seemed a little bit shocked. To lighten the mood, he and the other tour members give Otto a nickname, Imperial Enemy. The rest of the tour goes smoothly. Sightseeing during the day, restaurants and bars at night. They even engage with the local kids by having a friendly snowball fight. One of the reasons people travel is to understand the world a little better. Brilliant does that for learning. It helps you engage with ideas in a hands-on way, so you can unlock the intuition you already learn, or scan the QR code. Brilliant is offering 20% off an annual premium subscription, giving you unlimited access to everything on the platform. Back to January 1st, after the fireworks. When the tour group returns to the Yanggokdo Hotel, they split up. Some go to the bar. Danny Grattan heads to the bowling alley. They lose track of Otto. When Danny gets to his room, around 4:30 a.m., Otto is in bed, sound asleep. Then, a day and a half later, the group is ready to get on the plane. It's time to go home. As the last members of the group, Danny's and Otto's passports are checked. The officers take an unusually long time to scan their documents. Then Otto feels a sudden tap on his shoulder. There are 2 North Korean soldiers behind him. They lead him away. Danny doesn't think much of it and jokes, well, that's the last we'll ever see of you. 2.5 months later, Otto is standing trial in North Korea's Supreme Court. He's accused of violating Article 60 of the DPRK Criminal Code, state subversion. The central piece of evidence is this CCTV footage. It's timestamped. The early hours of New Year's Day, 2016. It shows a staff-only area in the Yanggakdo Hotel. A shadowy figure removes a poster from the wall and appears to set it on the ground. The poster looked like this, a propaganda poster, and it contained the Supreme Leader's name. Let's arm ourselves strongly with Kim Jong-il's patriotism. To remove it from the wall is a serious crime, a bid to impair the unity of North Korea's people. And that shadowy figure, according to the prosecutors, that is Otto Warmbier. The trial only lasts an hour. The Young Pioneers North Korean tour guide testifies against Otto. A second witness takes the stand, an employee who says they noticed the poster had been taken from the wall. Otto's belongings are presented as evidence, and fingerprints are shown on a flat-screen TV. But most of the supposed evidence came from Otto's confession 2 weeks earlier. Here, he goes into the details.
On January 1st, 2016, New Year's Day, I committed severe crimes against both the people and the government of the DPR Korea. The task was given by the Friendship United Methodist Church. At the encouragement of the Z Society and the connivance of the United States administration, I came to commit this crime task.
The full story goes like this. His friend's mother, a deaconess at the Friendship Methodist Church in his hometown of Cincinnati, Ohio, instructed him to deal a blow to North Korea by stealing an important political slogan to be hung in her church as a trophy. As a reward, he'd receive a used car worth $10,000. Were he to be detained, the church would pay his family $200,000.
The aim of this crime was to harm the work ethic and motivation of the Korean people.
He told his mother about his plans.
She cried and said not to do anything dangerous. I considered less, not wanting to hurt my mother. But since then, I received several alluring pressures from the Friendship United Methodist Church, leading me to finally decide on my crime attempt.
He then shared his plans with a member of the Z Society, a secret society at the University of Virginia that Otto wanted to join. He'd heard all of its members go on to get high-paying jobs.
He promised if I was successful, he would help me gain membership in the Z Society.
Finally, he decided to do it.
After I planned in detail to accomplish my plan, I arrived in Pyongyang on December 29th, 2015, through Beijing. On the early morning of January 1st, 2016, I committed my crime of taking out the important political slogan from the staff-only area of the Yanggakdo International Hotel, aimed at harming the work ethic and the motivation of the Korean people.
And, he explains, the plot goes all the way to the top.
The United States administration already knows about my act through the CIA, which is closely linked to the Z Society, and connived at my crime.
The church, too, is linked to the government.
The Friendship United Methodist Church is not a typical church. It is very wealthy, with $42 million. That is why the United States administration has very close ties with this church.
He was manipulated, plain and simple.
I was clearly given the task by the Friendship United Methodist Church. I was encouraged by the Z Society. My crime is very severe and pre-planned. I regret my actions more than anything. I beg for forgiveness, and I beg for help in any way possible to save my life.
완비호의 발언이 끝났습니다. 들으신 바와 같이 미 행정부는 우리 공화국을 반대하는 정말 더러운 행위를 감행하고 있습니다.
Experts agree that Otto Warmbier's confession seemed quite obviously coerced and staged. North Korea has a history of coercing confessions, and the US accused North Korea of broadcasting this one for propaganda purposes. A member of the Z Society said Otto had never approached them and denied any affiliation with the CIA, and the senior pastor at Friendship United Methodist Church said he didn't know of the deaconess mentioned by Otto. But this is later, after it's too late. Now, standing before the Supreme Court, all Otto can do is beg.
I was used and manipulated. Please, can I just stay with me? Please save my life.
But his pleas fall on deaf ears. He's handcuffed and led from the room. He's been sentenced to 15 years of hard labor. 2 days later, on March 18, the Korean Central News Agency released the CCTV footage to the public. Western news outlets treat the footage with suspicion. That figure could be anyone. One story notes that the corridor is well lit, something that, in a country where electricity is scarce, is far from the norm for staff-only spaces. Some of his tour mates give interviews. One of them, Sarah McLaughlin, says there was an issue with the time shown in the video.
Your group had been out at a New Year's Eve party in the hours before that. Were you even back at the hotel then?
No, the times didn't match up at all.
According to her, the Young Pioneers didn't return to the hotel until around 3 a.m., more than an hour after the footage was allegedly captured. Another tour mate says in an interview with the BBC that Otto was careful to observe the rules. They'd been told not to take pictures of military staff or installations, and he'd been nervous when taking a photo with military personnel in the background.
Men for mig giver det simpelthen ikke mening, at den samme fyr, som stod og var så nervøs over at få taget det her ene billede, som måske var lidt på kant med det, vi havde fået at vide, vi måtte, så skulle kunne drikke sig så fuld og forvandle sig til et helt andet menneske nærmest, og så bare jorde op og prøve at stjæle et banner.
His roommate, Danny Grattan, also doubts that it was Otto.
We never mentioned anything remotely like that. We'd already bought some souvenirs. In my heart of hearts, the guy I knew for 3 or 4 days was not that type of guy.
Everything about the whole story was fabricated, in my opinion.
Otto's parents, Fred and Cindy, turned to the Obama administration for help, but the Warmbiers later said they were advised to keep quiet. According to GQ, Robert King, the special envoy for North Korean human rights issues, warned that drawing media attention to the ordeal might anger the regime. What makes it even more complicated is that the United States has never had a formal diplomatic relationship with North Korea. There is no U.S. embassy in Pyongyang. The Swedish ambassador serves as the liaison for Americans, but the Swedes' calls and emails are met with silence. The days turn to weeks, turn to months. Efforts at back-channel diplomacy are stymied. The issue is passed from one administration to the next. No one knows where Otto is, what he's doing, or how he's being treated. Then, in early June 2017, some 17 months after his detention, the news finally arrives. Otto is unconscious. an extraction team of doctors and diplomats is put together. And finally,
Let me start by saying that I'm glad Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and I, along with a very talented team, were able to get Otto Warmbier back with his parents.
Otto Warmbier is returned to U.S. soil on June 13.
We're thrilled that our son is on American soil, and I'm able to talk to you on Otto's behalf, and I'm able to wear the jacket that he wore when he gave his confession. Otto, I love you, and I'm so crazy about you.
Last night, being able to see Otto for the first time in, gosh, I bet it's 18 months, it was fantastic. Otto's not in great shape right now, and he's been through a real tough time, and it's great to have him with us, and I'm very proud of him.
Otto is home, but he's changed tremendously. When Cindy and Fred met Otto at the airport, they were shocked.
We walked over to the plane, we heard this howling, involuntary, inhuman sound. Otto was on the stretcher across in the plane, and he was jerking violently, making these inhuman sounds. Otto had a shaved head, he had a feeding tube coming out of his nose, he was blind, he was deaf.
He was taken to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center's Neuroscience Intensive Care Unit, where extensive imaging and diagnostic tests immediately began.
His vital signs were stable upon arrival and have remained so.
He doesn't need help breathing, no signs of infection, no dysfunction of non-neurological organs. His neurological condition, though, is described as unresponsive wakefulness, what used to be called a vegetative state. He blinks, sometimes his eyes open, but he isn't aware of his surroundings and doesn't respond to verbal commands. He doesn't speak. Sometimes he moves, but his motions aren't intentional. His arms and legs are extremely weak.
Well, we thought he was in a coma, but you couldn't call it a coma.
The Warmbiers remain at his bedside as the tests are conducted.
Our image of Otto, as you know, was someone just wonderful, beautiful inside and out, and to see how he came home was too much for us. But I almost passed out, but I got it together and I rode in the ambulance with him because I did not want him to be alone anymore. He'd been alone for way too long.
He's surrounded by his loved ones, but his condition soon worsens. He develops a high fever, 40 degrees Celsius. Fred and Cindy Warmbier are told that he'll never wake up, and they ask to have his feeding tube removed. 6 days after his release, Otto is dead. The news travels across the world.
The family of Otto Warmbier has said goodbye.
Trauer und Entsetzen nach dem Tod des Studenten Otto Warmbier.
Otto Warmbier скончался после возвращения из тюрьмы в Северной Корее.
Otto Warmbier murió pocos días después de ser entregado a los Estados Unidos.
而在台湾时间今天20号凌晨去世。
The American student who fell into a coma while in North Korean custody and has died.
On June 22, in Wyoming, Ohio, more than 2,500 people attend his funeral. The condition in which Otto Warmbier came back to the U.S. and his subsequent death are discussed nationwide. He left the United States in good health. He returned on the brink of death.
Do you know what happened to him in North Korea? I don't.
Content note: the following chapter discusses suicide. Viewer discretion is advised. Upon his release, North Korea gave an explanation for Otto's state. They said he contracted botulism, a rare and severe kind of food poisoning, after eating a meal of spinach and pork. After he fell ill, they gave him a sleeping pill, to which he had some sort of unexpected reaction, which sent him into a state of unresponsive wakefulness. But U.S. medical experts are quick to dispute this story. 3 doctors, experts in neurology, ran tests on Otto while he was still alive. At the request of the family, they hold a press conference to give their opinions.
Those tests did not reveal any evidence of active or chronic denervation, nor any repetitive stimulation that would suggest active botulism at this time.
The North Koreans, it seems, are lying, and the Warmbiers have a different story.
They tortured him, they intentionally injured him. It looked like someone had taken a pair of pliers and rearranged his bottom teeth. He had a large scar on his right foot.
They destroyed him.
They purposely and intentionally injured Otto.
On September 25, 2017, Fred and Cindy Warmbier gave an interview on Fox & Friends. Trump apparently watched. This becomes the narrative: physical torture, and, as a consequence, brain damage. But soon, serious doubts emerge. Let's go through his injuries one by one. First, there was a noticeable scar on Otto's right foot. This is Dr. Lakshmi Kota Samarko, the coroner selected to conduct an external autopsy. Fred Warmbier had noticed the scar, but had Dr. Samarko?
Physically, as far as wounds, there were a few small scars that we documented. There was one that we really couldn't explain for medical instrumentation, which some of the other scars we could. But there wasn't anything on the external examination to indicate, other than that one scar that we couldn't explain, to indicate torture.
The Warmbiers opted against a complete autopsy, offering no reason for this decision. But Dr. Samarko did perform an external inspection. Later, in a lawsuit against North Korea, an expert witness cited the scar on Otto's foot as potential evidence that he was subjected to torture, possibly electric shock. But does this injury prove Otto was tortured? No. Then there are his teeth. Fred Warmbier said it looked as though Otto's bottom teeth had been rearranged. Dr. Samarko couldn't confirm this.
We also consulted our forensic dentist, Dr. Wright, and I had him take a look at the imaging, specifically dealing with the lower teeth and mandible. He agreed with us that there's no evidence of trauma to the lower teeth or mandible.
In the lawsuit, this finding was disputed. 2 of Otto's private dentists testified that his post-mortem dental x-rays, when compared to previous x-rays, indicated that some of his lower teeth had been bent backward, movement consistent with an impact injury. The New York Times had reported that Otto had been repeatedly beaten. That's not impossible. An ex-North Korean spy who was familiar with, though not directly involved in Otto's case, said he'd heard Otto was roughed up by prison guards.
그분이 감옥에 있으면서 간수들 있잖아요. 간수들이 많이 때렸대요. 왜 때렸냐면 언어가 안 되잖아요.
He also continues to say that there might have been waterboarding. To him, that's standard practice, what he'd call battery rather than torture. It's difficult to say whether this ex-spy is credible, though. And even if Otto's teeth were bent backward, it's impossible to know for certain what caused that. Finally, the biggest injury of all, his brain injury.
The most important diagnostic test thus far was a magnetic resonance imaging scan of the brain. This study showed extensive loss of brain tissue in all regions of the brain.
In other words, the damage is universal, and scans show it occurred all at once. There's a technical term for this, an anoxic encephalopathy. It means an injury caused by a lack of oxygen to the brain. So either blood ceased to flow to Otto's brain, which would result in a lack of oxygen, or Otto stopped breathing.
This pattern of brain injury, however, is usually seen as a result of cardiopulmonary arrest, where the blood supply to the brain is inadequate for a period of time, resulting in the death of brain tissue.
In general terms, one of the more likely causes of a cardiopulmonary arrest in a young person would have been a respiratory arrest.
In all likelihood, Otto stopped breathing. Any number of events could have caused this: an allergic reaction, choking, near drowning, anything that might prevent oxygen from reaching his brain. But which of these events was the cause? There's no way to know.
We have no certain or verifiable knowledge of the cause or circumstances of his neurological injury.
A cause that could almost certainly be ruled out was repeated beatings. Repeated beatings to the head would have caused asymmetrical damage, with some regions being affected more than others. Also, scans revealed no fractures of the skull. Despite all this uncertainty, the Warmbiers insist on torture. And the question of whether Otto was tortured or not is not a medical side note. By now, it has the potential to escalate a simmering conflict between two nuclear powers. A year and a half before, mere days after Otto's detention, North Korea had carried out its fourth nuclear test, in defiance of international sanctions. It also launched a long-range missile. In September 2016, it performed another nuclear test. By 2017, the year of Otto's return, the confrontation between the US and North Korea was near the boiling point.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen.
It was the beginning of the 2017-2018 North Korea crisis. Meanwhile, Otto Warmbier's case took on increased political weight. Trump had adopted the torture hypothesis as fact. Senator John McCain said Otto had been tortured and murdered. Senators Adam Schiff and Marco Rubio also used the word murder. Fred Warmbier's analysis was that his son served as a sort of human shield.
North Korea doesn't do anything by mistake. It was their fourth nuclear weapons test, and they had a lot of things they wanted to cover, and they felt like Otto was going to provide them the security they needed to get away with these things.
Then, in 2018, Michael Flukinger, the doctor that helped bring Otto back to the US, revealed a new piece of information to GQ. The staff at the North Korean hospital where Otto stayed told Flukinger that they received him the day after his trial, and he was already unresponsive. They had to resuscitate him, then give him oxygen and put him on a ventilator, or he would die, Flukinger told GQ. Also, there's a brain scan dated April 2016.
We received copies of brain MRI images from the medical personnel in North Korea. The earliest images are dated April 2016. Based upon our analysis of those images, the brain injury likely occurred in the preceding weeks.
Of course, the North Korean story might be a lie. It might not be true that he was hospitalized the morning after his trial, but there is strong medical evidence that he sustained his brain injury in the days or weeks after March 16. In any case, Otto Warmbier was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor, but it's very unlikely that he was actually sent to one of the notoriously horrific North Korean labor camps. American detainees are treated differently. According to GQ, Otto Warmbier most likely stayed in a used guest house in downtown Pyongyang during his detention. The hard labor he was sentenced to would likely have been planting soybeans and making bricks. Grueling, backbreaking work, but nothing compared to coal mining, which is typical for North Koreans. North Korea needed him as a bargaining chip, and bargaining chips don't have much value if they aren't in good condition. And in a sense, he was.
We believe that for somebody who's been bedridden for more than a year, that his body was in excellent condition, his skin was in excellent condition, and we didn't see any evidence of decubitus or bed sores.
In its article, GQ proposes a different theory than torture. During the 2 months between his detention and his confession, Otto was likely subjected to relentless interrogation for as long as 15 hours per day. The only respite from the interrogation would have been North Korean propaganda films. Previous prisoners were told their government had forgotten them. Some fell into debilitating depressions, even attempting suicide. At trial, so hours, weeks, or days before he supposedly fell into a coma, he was visibly desperate.
Please think of my family. I'm the oldest son in my family.
GQ speculates that in the hopeless hours after his sentencing, Otto may have attempted to take his own life. A lack of oxygen to his brain could have caused his injury. Of course, this theory is just one of many. An allergic reaction to a sleeping pill, an excessive administration of drugs, a suicide attempt, a heart attack, a form of torture that left no obvious lasting marks. It could have been any of these things. Without Otto here to tell the tale, we may never know the truth. In May 2018, something weird happened. Trump tweeted that he was going to meet Kim Jong-un in person, and everything changed.
Getting a good picture of everybody so we look nice and handsome.
After the Singapore summit, Otto's name all but disappeared from Trump's lips, replaced by the name of Kim Jong-un.
And then we fell in love, okay? No, really. He wrote me beautiful letters. And they're great letters. We fell in love.
The previous year, Trump tweeted that he tried so hard to be Kim's friend and referred to their relationship as
a very special relationship.
In 2019, when asked whether he thought Kim knew about Otto's case, his reply was startling.
I don't believe he knew about it.
The Warmbiers were outraged. Trump had helped them bring Otto home and relisted Kim Jong-un's country as a state sponsor of terrorism. Now he seems to admire him.
Well, he is very talented. Anybody that takes over a situation like he did at 26 years of age and is able to run it, and run it tough. Very few people at that age, you can take 1 out of 10,000 probably couldn't do it.
Otto Warmbier was many things: an all-American boy, an unlucky tourist, a loving son. But on the international stage, he was a pawn and a symbol. Pyongyang deployed Otto on the chessboard of politics, using him domestically as a mouthpiece to spread anti-American propaganda, and internationally as a bargaining chip, a hostage to be traded for the easing of sanctions or other U.S. concessions. For the Trump administration, Otto Warmbier was useful as a symbol, driving the narrative that he was tortured by a barbarous regime and possibly using his death as a means of psychologically preparing the American public for war, the threat of which Trump hoped would make Kim back down. Otto was sentenced to 15 years hard labor for an alleged crime that in most countries would be considered, at worst, vandalism, based on a sham trial. No matter what happened to him, that in itself is damning enough. And even if he likely never had to go to one of North Korea's prison camps, they are hell on earth. Uncertainty about his cause of death shouldn't distract from the exceptional brutality and cruelty of Kim Jong-un's regime.
You, just you, building your app on Base 44. Describe it.
Hi, Dr. Bernard here. I have first-hand knowledge of this medicine, not because I take it, but because I've worked on it. I'm not associated with any organization now here, so you're getting my unfiltered view. I'm not here to scare you out of your mind about taking these medicines, but I'm here to tell you that you need to be very sure you have a legitimate need to take the weight loss medicine. You've exhausted every single other viable option that doesn't involve putting this in your body, because it can cause lasting, direct and indirect changes to your body. Now, on the flip side, if you really do need it, don't ever let anyone shame you for taking life-saving medicine. The cases I'm about to tell you about are rare, but at least 12% of all adults in America have already taken this. That's more than 30 million people, and with the oral tablet formulation now available, this number is only going to increase. If it's even 0.1% of people getting the problems I'm about to describe to you, that's still more than 30,000 people. KT is a 50-year-old woman presenting to the emergency room with horrible nausea and vomiting. She tells the admitting nurse that over the last month, every day she would just want to eat less and less. This progressive decline in appetite was profound. At first, it started as not wanting to eat certain meals of the day. Then it became not eating for days at a time. A couple months ago, one of KT's friends had recently stopped taking weight loss medicine, but had a giant supply left over. She gave KT what remained and told her how to take it, and KT started taking it without seeing a doctor in person, without getting a prescription. This is definitely something that you never want to do because weird things started happening. Sometimes a sour sensation would drip under her tongue. Her eyes would quickly start to water as they would feel like they were squeezing out of her head, and she would empty her stomach in a way more intense than the previous time this happened, which was earlier that day. Nothing was consistent. She was taking this medicine for just a couple of weeks. Sometimes all of this would happen after she would eat, and it made her think that it was heartburn or indigestion, but other times it would just emerge out of nowhere, same feeling but no food at all. The burning would become so intense that it would bring her down to the ground. She'd take over-the-counter medicine for her stomach, proton pump inhibitor, the pink bismuth liquid, but every time she took antacids, she'd get dysgeusia, the sour metallic taste that emerges from the back of the throat, and the pain in her abdomen would still radiate to her back. None of this would go away. Maybe all of this is because of stress, she thought. KT told doctors that a burning abdominal pain emerged over the previous month on the upper right side, wrapping around her back. When you look at an anatomical diagram, the right upper quadrant of the abdomen has organs that aren't on the left. The body tends to be symmetrical, it's just that the digestive tract isn't. The gallbladder's here, it's connected with the liver, and as you go further towards the dorsal or the backside, the pancreas is there, and just below the pancreas is the right kidney. If there's pain in this area, any one of these could have something wrong, and further testing gave doctors more clues. Hey, I got a quick request. If you're learning something from this video and you're not subscribed yet, I'd really appreciate it if you did subscribe and come back to see the video that I publish next month too. I make these videos for fun, and I do them to teach people about medicine, about how our bodies work, and to show the conversations that we actually have in medicine. On average, I've made one video a month every month since 2017. I genuinely enjoy making these videos, and I'm so happy to be able to share them with you. I appreciate you. A blood test reveals that KT's kidneys are shutting down. Wastes that should be removed from her body through her urine are now floating around in her blood. And it's not just this. Parts of her liver have died and are also floating around in her blood. Her liver has shut down. If both of these organs are where she's experiencing pain, this should make sense. Except when the kidneys and the liver fail, they don't always hurt. They don't usually directly produce pain, meaning for KT, something else is the problem. But what? Doctors do a CT scan so they can look directly into her abdomen. They thought they knew what the problem was, but the image tells them that it's more than they thought. The gallbladder is connected with the liver. This is a small organ that stores excess bile, which is a fluid that helps digest fats that you eat. The liver makes bile, so these two organs work together at the common bile duct. This is where the gallbladder and the liver join to release bile. The problem is, the CT scan showed that KT's bile duct was dilated. There's a list of issues that can cause this, but not only that, her stomach was swollen with pockets of air and what looked like food material that was stuck there. Further down in her intestines, there was a massive stool burden. This was clearly several days worth of bowel movements that were just sitting there. All of this explains why her whole body hurts, but the scan reveals even more. Let's start with the dilated bile duct. Why is it doing that? Well, given that parts of her liver have died, and that her liver has shut down, and that the liver empties some of its contents through the bile duct, then it means that all her problems could be coming from her liver. But we have to think this through. Sometimes if a tube or a pipe, like a blood vessel or a duct, is dilated, it's the body trying to respond to a blockage. If we're thinking of the bile duct, well, gallstones are famously known to block flow. We call this a cholelithiasis. Chola from Greek referring to bile. Lith also from Greek meaning stone. Thiasis meaning a condition produced by something specific. Anyone who's had one knows that gallstones cause horrible upper right abdominal pain, similar to what KT's experiencing, except the scan didn't show that she had any stones. Nothing was blocking the way. And this means that her biliary dilation is non-obstructive. And this narrows down the cause to two things. In the hospital, KT's nausea and vomiting continued to worsen. She told doctors that she had been taking prescription painkillers, only a couple tablets though. She had saved these from a knee surgery that she had years ago. She didn't take very many, and she had simply forgotten to say anything because it was just so insignificant to her. Doctors decided to do one more imaging test. They take a camera and send it down into her stomach to directly see what that mass was, and images told them exactly what they needed to know. Sometimes food doesn't digest all the way, and this could be because the stomach isn't moving things along. The entire gastrointestinal tract is a giant muscle, and it needs to contract and relax the entire way through in order to move things along. This is a continuous tract, so from your mouth to your other end is a giant tube. This mass that was found in her stomach was made made of a collection of all the food that she's eaten over the last several days, piled up into one semi-solid heap. This is called a bezoar. It blocks flow in the stomach, explaining why she couldn't keep anything down, and as things stretched in her GI tract every time she ate or drank, it would add to the pain that she was already having because this was stuck in her gut. As the muscles in her GI tract tried to accommodate this, the bile duct stretched out and dilated. But here's the thing, the bezoar is in her stomach, this is the upper GI tract, but there was a massive stool burden in her intestines, that's the lower GI tract after the bezoar. A blockage up here shouldn't also cause a blockage down here, meaning we still don't know why she had the bezoar and the massive stool together. What allowed these to form? Well, the stool means that the intestines weren't moving, but we also said that this particular bezoar is because the stomach isn't moving. So if we put these together and say that the entire GI tract isn't moving, then both of these simultaneously are caused by the same problem. Therefore, something slowed down or paralyzed her entire GI tract. It also caused dilation of her bile duct. Fluids backed up. They stayed still, and the swelling caused massive pain. But what does this? At this point, KT tells doctors about the weight loss medicine that she had gotten from her friend. Luckily, it was an approved manufactured product by a company, not a compounded one where it would be harder to verify exactly what it was, so they knew exactly what was going into her body. One of the side effects of this medicine is that it slows down the GI tract. The exact phrase that we use in medicine about this is delayed gastric emptying. This effect is partially how it was discovered in the first place, but sometimes, and this is rare, it'll slow down the GI tract to the point where things don't really move at all. Gastroparesis. Gastro referring to the GI tract, and paresis referring to muscle weakness and partial paralysis. Delayed gastric emptying and gastroparesis are not the same thing. Delayed gastric emptying is normal with this medicine. It's part of how it works. Gastroparesis happens, but is not normal with this medicine. I didn't realize that might be a controversial statement. I'm actually kind of surprised that academic institutions are putting it this way on their websites, but let me explain. The words delayed gastric emptying refers to a side effect. The word gastroparesis refers to a chronic disease whereby someone has extreme abnormally delayed gastric emptying. Before this became weight loss medicine, while it was still a diabetes medicine, one of the most asked questions was the fact that the dose had to be titrated up so that patients could tolerate the GI side effects. There was an effort to ensure differentiation between delayed gastric emptying and gastroparesis. In English, delayed gastric emptying implies that it's just delayed, it's temporary, it's going to move through, it's just a little slower than normal. Gastroparesis sounds like paralysis, which implies it's over, it's done, it's never coming out, and that gut of yours is never moving ever again. But let me say it again, it sounds like that. Now you see the problem. It doesn't mean it's actually over. This is an unfortunate circumstance of English words, and at best, people might just mistake the two and their implications, and at worst, bad faith folks will use it to mess with people. Just know that you can expect this delayed gastric emptying to happen while you're on the medicine. Gastroparesis is the very extreme case, which if you do experience while taking it, see your physician in person, who you should have seen to get this medicine in the first place, bringing us back to KT's case. Why does this medicine slow down the gut? We need to understand what this medicine is. Slowing down the gut is not the only thing that it does. The name of the drug class gives us clues. Glucagon-like peptide-1 receptor agonist, GLP-1RA. Glucagon is a hormone, opposite of insulin. What does that mean? Insulin is the hormone released after you eat a meal. It tells your body cells to take in the sugar from the meal floating around in the blood. It's an anabolic hormone, meaning that it tells your body to construct and build things based on that sugar, and this provides them with energy. Glucagon is the opposite of that. If insulin lowers blood sugar, glucagon raises blood sugar, and it does that by telling the liver to break down its stores of sugar, whereas insulin tells the body to build things. Glucagon tells the body to break down things. Therefore, glucagon is a catabolic hormone. So let's go back to the name glucagon-like peptide-1 receptor agonist. Science discoveries don't happen in order, and this is where things might get a little confusing. The weight loss medicine KT took is based off glucagon-like peptide, and glucagon-like peptide only looks like glucagon. It also comes from the same place as glucagon. But glucagon-like peptide doesn't do anything that glucagon does. GLP-1 is a hormone, but it stimulates insulin release. That lowers blood sugar, but also GLP-1 prevents glucagon from being released. This confusion is because science discoveries are made out of order, and the location where GLP-1 was found in the body was centered around glucagon, and the name probably wasn't changed because it took many more years to discover exactly what it did. Agonist means that the medicine pushes forward the GLP-1 signal. At a minimum, an agonist can be a fraction of or match the signal, and at a maximum, it can multiply that signal. There isn't some grand conspiracy behind this name intended to confuse the masses, but just know that this name refers to an opposite of an opposite. Glucagon is a catabolic hormone. It's the opposite of insulin, but glucagon-like peptide is the opposite of glucagon. It stimulates insulin, but it also isn't insulin. The most important thing to know is that because GLP-1 is a hormone, it does very many things to the body simultaneously, just like every other hormone. We just covered that it changes insulin and glucagon levels. We also just said that it slows down the gut, and it does that in multiple ways too. It's easy to boil it down and just say that it causes you to eat less. The problem when you do that is that you miss all the other mechanisms whereby things can and will go wrong and permanently alter the lives of millions of people around the world. It's not a good idea to minimize it. So if it's used inappropriately, it will throw the body off balance. A popular topic is how the brain connects to the gut. There's a physical connection via the vagus nerve. When a GLP-1 signal is sent from the gut, it tells the nerves to slow down. But sometimes, in very, very rare cases, the GI tract slows down so much that it looks like KT's case. When KT was admitted into the hospital, she couldn't take the weight loss medicine anymore because doctors didn't even know at first she was taking it. But now that doctors do know that she's taking it, they tell her no more doses for not only the time that she's here, but knowing that she's had this severe of a reaction to this medicine, it's not a good idea to restart it later if it can be helped. That takes care of the underlying problem. But even when the gut is able to move things along again, the bezoar still needs to be taken care of. This can't be handled without some help, meaning that KT is going to need some intervention. But what? Well, doctors could go in and mechanically disaggregate the bezoar. This would involve sticking the scope down her throat and swirling it around. But this can be risky because it's not the same thing as using a scope to just take a look. You have to swirl it around, break it up, and control isn't 100% precise. So there's a chance of damaging any part of the GI tract in contact with the scope. They could do surgery to remove it, but this isn't a complicated bezoar. Like if it was a hairball, you actually can't use a scope to take that out because you'll pull on just more hairs, especially if it's a big one. And it could be hard to recover from that too. She might get an infection afterwards. That could cause massive problems also. So doctors elected to not do surgery. But something that's easy for them to try is to chemically dissolve it. This would prevent any direct physical damage that could happen. It could also eliminate any recovery time needed post-treatment. This would be a non-toxic chemical abundantly available, and a perfect chemical that fits all this criteria is carbonated soda. Diet in her case, because she did have blood sugar problems. The physiocarbonation of the drink can mobilize stomach contents. The stretch of the gastric muscle from not only the liquid but also the carbon dioxide will help stimulate contractions to help get things moving along. Both Coca-Cola and Pepsi were originally formulated by pharmacists, maybe for slightly different reasons, but at least in the late 1800s, they did find that the fizzy drinks were in fact able to help with some digestive issues. In one way, we've come very far with our current GI therapies, but yet in another way, the classics can still work at the right time for the right patient, of whom in this case is KT. Doctors gave her 3 liters of diet soda to drink over 12 hours. It's okay, it's in the hospital, so there's people watching. The first day, she didn't feel well, she couldn't finish it, but on the second day, when she drank even more, she suddenly felt a tugging in her stomach. This was followed by the absolute largest bowel movement of her entire life. Both the discontinuation of the weight loss medicine, which stopped her gastroparesis, and the chemical dissolution and gaseous KT. Doctors gave her 3 liters of diet soda to drink over 12 hours. It's okay, it's in the hospital, so there's people watching. The first day, she didn't feel well, she couldn't finish it, but on the second day, when she drank even more, she suddenly felt a tugging in her stomach. This was followed by the absolute largest bowel movement of her entire life. Both the discontinuation of the weight loss medicine, which stopped her gastroparesis, and the chemical dissolution and gaseous disaggregation of her bezoar appeared to have been the right treatment at the right time, as she was able to make a full recovery. KT's case describes the consequences of gastroparesis in the setting of someone taking a friend's medicine, didn't see a doctor about it, didn't get a prescription, but in the partial gut paralysis, she also had biliary tract dilation because of the bezoar. Luckily, she didn't have a gallstone, which this weight loss medicine has been known to cause those too. But this area of the gut can spawn some serious medical emergencies, just like in the case for JC, is a 34-year-old man presenting to the emergency room with abdominal pain radiating to his back. For the last 4 hours, green liquid was coming up from his stomach. He felt like someone had plunged a sharp object directly into his upper back. His stomach would burn every time the hurt flared up, and all this had started days ago. JC had recently heard his neighbor and some of his friends started taking weight loss medicine. At first, he didn't think anything more of it, their business. But one morning, he looked in the mirror and wasn't super happy with what he saw. He never quite got the results that he thought he would get at the gym, so it was time for him to tighten things up, he thought. After reading online, JC found out that he could find a prescriber on the internet who could get him weight loss medicine if he was willing to pay up. He was quickly determined eligible and was able to pick it up at the local pharmacy, and he started taking it, and he was feeling great. It was a little slow to start. He was able to live his normal life, and every time he'd step onto the scale, he saw progress, but things started happening. His mouth would get dry. He'd pour himself some water, but he'd realize he wouldn't drink it. He thought maybe it was subconscious and that maybe he just needed to put some effort into drinking it. But even when he tried, he just didn't want to. And then the water started tasting metallic. He tried some other drinks. Some days they tasted better than others, and he continued taking the weight loss medicine. But one evening, JC was sleeping. Suddenly, a sharp pain woke him up, and no matter how much he tried different positions laying down in bed, it wouldn't go away. During the day, he couldn't get anything done because of how much it hurt. He tried sleeping it off, but the pain was horrible. Even just smelling food would make him feel like he was going to throw up. In a fit of blinding pain, he felt like he was getting blood-eagled as he calls for 911, and he's brought to the emergency room, where we are now. In the emergency room, JC threw up on the nurse's shoes. His breathing was stressed, and he said that his abdominal pain radiated to his back, like someone had taken a crowbar and started prying it apart. A blood test finds that JC has hyperlipemia. Hyper meaning high, lip from Greek referring to lipids or fats, A's referring to an enzyme that breaks things down, like lactase to break down lactose in milk, and emia meaning presence in blood. High fat-degrading enzyme presence in blood. Lipase comes from the pancreas. It's released after we eat a meal. It's secreted into the small intestines via the pancreatic duct, which joins the common bile duct, where the gallbladder and liver release bile, done this way to optimize digestion and absorption of fats into the body. Lipase is only supposed to go in here. If it's in the blood, then it means that the pancreas is leaking it out. But the problem is, because it digests fat, and the pancreas is partially made of fat, and it's leaking out, contacting parts of the pancreas that it shouldn't be contacting, then it means that JC's pancreas is digesting itself. True to my message to you that diet and exercise should always be the front of mind in context of weight loss, Cookunity is a great option for getting started on the right track for food choices. They're the sponsor of this video. JC has acute. The link in the description below and use my code CHUBBY50 to try it out. Link in the description with code CHUBBY50. I highly recommend it. JC has acute pancreatitis. Itis meaning an inflammation of the pancreas because something happened to it. Enzymes started leaking out of it and it's now starting to digest itself. Acute meaning that all this is happening suddenly, but why is this happening? This part about weight loss medicine sometimes is either forgotten or just isn't known in the first place. It was originally a diabetes medicine. It wasn't seriously being considered for weight loss at first because patients weren't losing that much weight on the original versions. It was at most a couple of pounds at the cost of possible serious side effects like pancreatitis. One thing that we've known since the 1980s is that GLP-1 can increase pancreatic cell proliferation. If the cells become too numerous, or if they become too big, that's going to squeeze ducts. This can block outflow. This can prevent lipase from draining out of the pancreas. The subsequent backup can cause it to linger at first, then to overflow, and then digest the pancreas itself as it flows out into JC's blood, causing his horrible abdominal pain and his hyperlipemia. One part of GLP-1 discovery was from how it delays gastric emptying, and another part of the discovery was from the pancreas in what was happening to JC. In 1990, Dr. John Ung at the Veterans Administration Hospital in the Bronx was interested in recent National Institutes of Health research that demonstrated that snake and lizard venom caused pancreas enlargement. Why did the venom do this? Of particular note was the Gila monster. However, one thing that was realized was that Gila monster venom samples contained its saliva. The Gila monster is able to slow down its metabolism and maintain constant blood sugar levels after long periods of not eating. If the venom causes pancreas enlargement and the pancreas makes insulin, which creates an environment of maintained blood sugar levels, well, something might be in here that's involved with insulin. But the Gila monster doesn't envenomate itself. And given that its saliva is in the venom samples and that saliva makes its way through the GI tract of which the pancreas is a part of, then what's in that saliva that connects with pancreas and insulin? When Dr. Ung took a closer look at the Gila monster saliva, he found something called exendin, but he noticed something. In 1983, we still weren't able to sequence whole genomes like we are today, but based on reasoning and some genes that we already knew about in humans, scientists deduced the structure of something made by the pancreas called proglucagon. This is the precursor to glucagon in the body. But this predicted structure also indicated that proglucagon gets cut up into multiple different things. These all looked like glucagon. They're from the same place as glucagon, but they weren't glucagon. And as a result, two of these extras were named glucagon-like peptide 1 and 2. And when scientists knew what they were looking for, they discovered that the prediction was correct. It's just that glucagon-like peptide only looked like glucagon. It didn't behave like glucagon. When Dr. Ung looked at exendin from the Gila monster saliva, he noticed that it looked like human glucagon-like peptide. And and it appeared that its function was similar too. GLP-1 isn't always floating around in our blood. Our bodies release it after we eat, but its signal is very powerful, so our body wants to get rid of it. We have a built-in process that eliminates GLP-1 in 2 minutes. The difference is when Exendin is in the human body, it does what GLP-1 does, but it's different enough that the human process can't break it down fast enough. It hangs around the body for hours, continuously sending all the signals that GLP-1 does. If Gila monsters can slow down their metabolism and maintain blood sugar levels during long periods of not eating because Exendin is in their saliva and Exendin sends the GLP-1 signal to regulate blood sugar and slow down metabolism while lasting longer than GLP-1 does, then is it possible to give humans Exendin as a medicine for type 2 diabetes? Type 2 is the diabetes.
Let's do something different this time. Wait. It's actually pretty cool. Chill. But chill, I'm done. Oh my god. I have biceps, back, core, and well, I'm sure there's something else, but yeah. So legs, chest, tricep, shoulder. For the other one. Touchy piggy. Sorry. It's okay. Oh yeah. That's why. chill.